Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are going to be doing a skin tier list for Rivals of Aether 2, just taking a small break from the analysis and getting a chance to actually look at these skins because they are really good, at least a majority of them are, and let's just get right into it. So I've put all of the default skins into the D tier, and this is going to act as our frame of reference. Everything below them is like actually a bad skin that I just straight up don't like. Everything above them is a good skin that I do like. So just because the skin's in the C tier doesn't mean it's bad. It's just relative to the other skins, it's in the C tier. So starting off with the pixelated Zetterburn, and I would actually put him in the B tier. Now most of the pixelated ones are going to be going in the C tier, maybe even the F tier for some of them, but I really like the flame effect that is added with Zetterburn. Not added, but just the pixelated flame effect I think looks really cool with him on the pixelated version, obviously. So I would be putting him in the B tier. Then you're going to have the Letterman jacket, and this is absolutely an S tier skin. It would already be an A tier skin just looking at it, but the fact that he throws a football for side B instantly pops that up to S tier. Then you're gonna have just the recoloring. This one is kind of basic, honestly not really a lot to add here. I don't mind the color palette though, so we'll keep that in the C tier. And honestly, it's a similar thing here. It is a little bit more of a tiger aesthetic, which, you know what, I guess that's kind of cool. He's cool, I should say. He's a lion. It is a little bit contrasting, but not enough so to actually move him up from the C tier. And I don't really like the variants of this one aside from the normal one. Actually, the blue one's cool, but the other two I'm not a big fan of. And then finally, you're gonna have the vampire one, and I'll put this one in the B tier. I'm honestly just not a super big fan of the color palette for this. I don't really like the purple. I just don't know, it doesn't rub me the right way, but everything else I like about the aesthetic. The vampire aesthetic is cool. I feel like they maybe could have done a little bit more with it, but I don't honestly know how they would have, I guess with the flame effects, but not a bad skin, just not an amazing one. Next up is going to be Ranno, starting off with the tuxedo skin, which is one of the best skins in the game. I'm such a huge fan of it. He just looks so dapper. He really does. And I love the red darts as well. All of the variants for it are absolute bangers as well. This is like a money skin. The only complaint that I possibly could have about it is that they don't have a white tux, which would also look super clean. Then you're going to have this variant. I'm not a fan of this. I think it's supposed to look more like an actual poison dart frog with his stuff around his eyes, but I don't like the texture on the pants, and I also just don't like the general coloring of it. Then you're going to have the pixelated version. Again, most pixelated versions are going in the C or the F tier, but I like this pixelated version a little bit more just because of the aesthetic of the bubble and the dart. So it's really not even the characters of the pixel version I like, it's just like the moves that they happen to have. Then you're gonna have the, I guess, Halloween event, the cobweb one, and I think the cobweb part of the darts is actually pretty cool, and the general aesthetic is cool as well. Not as cool as the characters in the S tier though, definitely. And if it wasn't for the cobwebs, this would be a B tier skin. It is the cobweb darts that are barely taking it up to the A tier, but definitely still A tier. This skin is so ugly. It's just like a recoloring, but I hate it. I really do. I am such a fan of the 3D skins. Basically all the 3D skins are going in the S tier, and almost every single one of them in order is going to be like 1 through top 4. I am such a big fan. I think they all look amazing, and I would say that Ranno probably has the second best one. And then finally you're going to have the baller Ranno, which also goes into the S tier, and I would probably put this honestly as the best skin that we have ranked so far. And that might not be, or that might be just because I haven't seen it yet. I haven't got my greedy little hands on it. Once I do, maybe the novelty of it will wear away, but I just think it is so cool, especially the fact that they are doing collaborations with other events as well. I just think that's so sick. Really quickly, I just wanted to say this is roughly ordered, so if you see characters moving around between takes, that's just because I'm reordering them within the tiers. And the next character we got to talk about is Wrastor, starting off with the pixelated skin. And as I said, not a big fan of the pixelated skins, but I do think Wrastor has one of the better ones just because of the effect on side B. I like that, but everything else is just like your typical pixelated skin. Then you're going to have Kickstarter Wrastor, and this is one of the more conflicting ones because I'm not a huge fan of the shorts or the slippers. I think the shirt is fine. I like the color of the shirt, to be honest, but I'm a huge fan of the worm and a huge fan of the sleeping mask. Mainly the worm, though. The worm is what's doing it for me. So the worm is going to put the skin in A tier. Otherwise, this would probably be a B tier skin, but the worm, I mean, it's iconic. Then you're going to have the robot, the mech Wrastor, and this is easily an S tier skin. This is one of the coolest skins in the entire game. I would actually put it as the second coolest skin in the entire game. Maybe even cooler if it wasn't on specifically Wrastor. A little bit of a Wrastor hater here, but it just looks so sick. And then you're going to have just the normal bird versions of Wrastor, and actually really like the parrot one, but not as much the blue jay one. I think that's the right bird. Sorry if I got that wrong to my bird fans, but the blue jay one is fine. I think the variants aren't as strong as the parrot one though. I would put the parrot one in the A tier, even though it is more of a simple recolor with some design differences. I just really like the color palette that they have with it. And then finally, you're gonna have the pixelated skin, or not the pixelated skin, the 3D skin, and of course, this one is going to go in the S tier. Now, I think of the 3D skins, this is definitely the worst one. The color remixes for it are also awful. Like that yellow palette is super ugly, and his beak is maybe a little bit awkward, but everything else is super cool, really fire, and the 3D skins are just kind of generally awesome. Next up is gonna be Kragg, and I think Kragg has the best skins in the game, just straight up. And yes, I'm a Kragg main. No, that is not influencing me at all. Starting off with the pixelated skin. Like most pixelated skins, I think this belongs in the C tier. The only real nice part about it is going to be the rock and the wall, but in contrast to the other rocks and walls that Kragg has and his other skins, it is just way, way worse. Speaking of contrast to the other ones, we have quite literally the best skin in the game, Soccer Ball Kragg. Not only is the rock a ball, which is just a good idea, but also the up B for it is like really cool as like, I don't know what you would call it, maybe like a goalie post, a net, I don't know, but it's cool. Really big fan of the Kragg Soccer Ball skin, and all the variants on it are awesome as well. Then you're gonna have the Egyptian Kragg, and this one is also amazing. I would put it just at the brink of the S tier, simply just because I don't want too many skins into the S tier, and I do think it's not quite on the level of those super amazing skins, but I am a really big fan of this one, and the pillar on it is also amazing. The only thing that could be a little bit better is the rock. The rock is cool, but I think for what this skin is, it could have been a little bit cooler, but still an amazing skin. Then you got Ladybug Kragg, and I'm a huge fan of Ladybug Kragg. He just looks like a ladybug. It just fits him so well, and I really like the reskins for this one as well. This is the level 50 Kragg. I hate this. I think this looks so ugly, and the fact that you have to earn it as well is just like a spit on the face. It's just adding design to Kragg that he really doesn't like. I think the benefit of Kragg is kind of like the simplicity of this character, and just by adding these extra shapes and shadings, it really takes away from him, in my opinion. And then finally for Kragg, you're gonna have the 3D skin, and the 3D Kragg skin is also so fire. Like, this skin is incredible. For some reason, all I can think about is the Gwimbly from Smiling Friends when I see this Kragg skin. None of the other 3D skins, just this one, but because it makes me think of Smiling Friends, that's an S tier skin. Next up is going to be Fleet, starting off with their pixelated skin, and this is the first pixelated skin that is going to be going in the F tier. I'm not a fan of this one at all, and honestly, I think it's just because the normal specials of Fleet, I really like the color design on them, and the pixelated one just completely ruins that, makes them this groggy green or blue or whatever, and it just takes away from that vibrant, bright pink that I think Fleet really benefits from design-wise, so not a fan of the pixelated one at all. I am a huge fan of the Beach Fleet, though. I don't know where I would exactly rank it, just because I haven't seen it as much relative to the other skins, but I just really like the general aesthetic, and specifically the bow being an inflatable, I think is such an amazing idea. Then you're just gonna have 2 recolors of Fleet, and I honestly think very little of these skins, or have very little to think about these skins. Kind of similar to the Zetterburn ones. I feel fairly indifferent towards them, though they are definitely worse than the Zetterburn ones. Specifically this one that's like more calico. I think this is like easily the worst Fleet skin. No, not quite. I guess not easily the worst Fleet skin, because I have one in the F tier. So easily the worst Fleet skin that isn't the pixelated one. Next up is going to be Maple, starting off with the pixelated one, and I feel very indifferent towards the skin. This is probably the skin in the entire game that I have the least feeling towards, so it's just going at the bottom of the C tier. Next up, you're going to have the Cogni Orphan one, and I would put this at the bottom of the A tier, just because I really like the aesthetics on the leaf blades, turning them into actual knives. I think it's super cool. The rest of the outfit is good, maybe not as good as the rest of the characters, though, in the A or even the S tier, so it's really the knives that are taking it over the edge for Maple in this skin. I like the coloring of this, I guess, Ice Maple, you would call it. I really just like the coloring of it, and that's all you have to say. But to be fair, that's really all you have to say about the entire skin. I guess the aesthetic on the knives as well, but that's not really the thing that's doing it for me. It's mainly the recolor. And then finally, you're gonna have the Skunk Maple, and I like the fact that they made her a skunk. You know, it's the same thing as making Wrastor a pear. I just think that's clever. Next up is going to be Clairen, starting off with the pixelated skin, and this is another pixelated skin going in the F tier. Just look at it in contrast to the normal Clairen. You have the bright, vibrant tipper versus this groggy, mundane tipper that just blends right into the rest of the model. I think it just basically undermines tipper significantly, and that's like the cool part of Clairen as a character. Next up, you're going to have this skin. No idea what it's called, but I think Clairen honestly looks super clean without the cape, and that's kind of it. The color aesthetic is good as well, but it's mainly just the fact that she doesn't have a cape, and they tried that, and I think it looks pretty good, honestly. Not a fan of this recoloring at all. Not to the point where I would put it worse than Clairen. I like that they have her without the mask, but same thing with this one as well. But I just am not a huge fan of the color palette to really put it any higher than this. I think this one just has a better color palette, but it's nothing special by any means. Then you're gonna have the Halloween one, and this one is actually super fire. I really like the side B on it. I like the color of the tipper as well, and of course the sword being a chainsaw is just like an amazing idea. And then finally you got the pixelated, or the 3D Clairen, I should say, and of course this one is going to be going in the S tier. The recolors for this skin are amazing. Like, every single variant of it is actually so fire in my opinion, and the hair is really spiky. It reminds me of Sonic, but I kind of like that added design on the 3D skins. Just the extra spikes, it just makes them more 3D. I don't know. Next up is going to be Loxodont, starting off with the pixelated one, and I think this is a pretty solid pixelated skin. I like the magma effects mainly, and the meatball also looks fairly cool, but it's mainly the magma effects that are putting this in the B tier. Then you're going to have the Mammoth Loxodont, and this one is honestly super sick. It's really just the skins in the S tier being like peak that is keeping this skin out of it, because I'm a huge fan of it. I also love what they did with the axe. I think the aesthetic on that is amazing. Just the general aesthetic of it is really, really strong. Then you're going to have the zebra and the elephant skin, or not the zebra and elephant, he's already an elephant, the zebra and the giraffe skin. And if it wasn't for the magma versions, these skins would probably both be in the C tier, but the magma versions are like low-key S tier skins. I'm such a fan of them when you have the full charge, even just the second charge of them. So yeah, definitely going to be putting those in the B tier. And then finally you got Chef Loxodont, and this is an easy S tier skin. The sound redesign just takes it over the edge. Even without that, he was already a funny guy that changed his axe to the pizza panel, or whatever you call that. I don't know why I'm blanking on it, but the meatball for neutral special as well, great idea. You gave him a little mustache. Like, what else could you need? And then they went above and beyond a game of sound redesign. Like, this skin is peak. Next up is going to be Orcane, starting off with the pixelated skin, and I'll just put him right between Kragg and Wrastor. I like Wrastor for the side B, I like Kragg for the rock, and I like Orcane for the bubbles, but everything else, not really that special. Then you're going to have Axolotl, and this is something that is quite special for Orcane. I am a huge fan of the skin. In fact, I'll even put it above the pixelated Clairen. He just looks so cute, not only, but he also looks like exactly like an Axolotl, which I can definitely appreciate. We need more Axolotl representation. Come on, guys. Then you're going to have the Goldfish skin, and the Goldfish skin is like the closest that you can get to an S tier skin with just like a basic recoloring and redesign without doing anything fancy. It's just like really good. He's just a simple, funny goldfish. He's looking fun. It's like Finding Nemo. And honestly, that's all I really needed from an Orcane skin. And then finally, you're going to have the spotted Orcane. And it's just like, I don't know, it's something about putting spots on a fish, but it just doesn't seem natural. I know he's supposed to be kind of like a dog as well, but he's prominently fish, and fish don't have spots. Everybody knows that. Really quickly, I forgot to mention that I really like the bubbles and the puddle as well for Orcane. The bubbles having that combination of orange and white is just super, super pretty. But our final character is going to be Forseburn, and his first skin is going to be the pixelated one. And I believe this is the worst skin in the game, simply just because I really hate how the pixelated smoke looks. And the pixelated smoke is going to be out for like a lot of the game. So yeah, not a fan of pixelated smoke. That's going to make you the worst skin of the game. But you do have one of the best skins in the game in the Wasteland Forseburn. This skin is so fire. Specifically the dagger on it. I love the attention to detail that's put in. I think it looks amazing. I love that it's a wrench as well. And then just the rest of these small details on his outfit, plus the gas mask to top it off, I think are really, really sick. Then you're going to have just the, I guess, cheetah print or leopard print skin. And I'm not a huge fan of this one. I would put it just towards the bottom of the typical reskins. And the final one is going to be whatever you call this, but I'm just not a fan of the recoloring at all here for Forseburn. I think his original design, plus having the actual skull, looks way, way cleaner. I didn't even realize he didn't have the skull in this one too. I'm moving him down to the F tier. No skull! No, I was gonna swear, but I realized I don't do that here. After a little bit of rearranging, we have our official Rivals 2 skin tier list. And really quickly, I should say, this skin tier list didn't have the Rockstar Kragg on it. And I would put Rockstar Kragg somewhere between like the Mech Wrastor and probably the pixelated or the 3D Clairen. He'd be somewhere within that range. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this tier list. These skins in Rivals of Aether 2 are so fire. And the game has just came out. We barely have the sample size to even look at. Only more and more are going to be added. And I'm honestly really excited to see what the future holds. If y'all want to make your own tier list, a link will be down below to a tier list maker, so be sure to check them out and sub while you're down there. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye.